Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us for this afternoon live talk series. We represent the Department of Psychology from International Medical University. And today, I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Serena I'm a clinical psychologist and also a lecturer in the department. So today we are very privileged and honored to have one of our colleagues, a very prominent behavioral psychologist, Mr. Alexius Cheang, talking about helping kids and ourselves to stay positive in a pandemic. So before we begin, I'll just run through some housekeeping rules. We have muted the microphone for all attendees, so I hope you understand to control for noise. And secondly, if you have any questions or any feedback, please use the Q&A panel or that chat box as you can see in your Zoom app. And please take note that this live talk session will be recorded and it will be available for viewing after the talk. All right? So before we begin, let me introduce our speaker. So Mr. Alexius has a very, very interesting experience. His work experience includes working as a lecturer and trainer at Help Institute, now known as Help University. And he later joined a non-governmental organization, NGO, called Protect and Save the Children Association, where he played a role to raise awareness in protecting children from sexual abuse and exploitation as the assistant director there. He also worked as a sports psychology consultant at the National Sports Institute in Malaysia. He worked with elite athletes in the national badminton and shooting teams, where he later became the head of the Sports Psychology Center. Wow. And so that's why IMU is so privileged to have him working with us as a psychology lecturer. Apart from work, he has also been interviewed on TV and radio as well by magazines and newspapers on various topics, and has also been on the board of advisors of Men's Health magazine in Malaysia. He loves to give talks on parenting and career guidance, and his interest is in the field of positive psychology and its applications in improving well-being. And that's why we have him to speak on this really helpful topic to all of us in these very trying times this year. So I hope everybody is ready to sit back and ready to learn, as I am. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you so much, Serena. Very appreciative of having you here with me today. And thank you so much to the audience that is live with us today. So I'm actually grateful for the opportunity to share evidence-based practices in order to, face the challenges that we have. I understand there's a lot of negativity going around. Sometimes what we read in the reports in the media is quite scary. We don't know where the next cluster is going to come about. We're concerned about our safety of our kids, in school. Who are they mixing with? Are they following SOPs and stuff like that? Well, those are things which I can't really control. So my focus today is actually on focusing on things that we can do for ourselves as well as for our kids, right? So that we can redirect our energies into something that would be worthwhile and useful, but also I'll show you towards the end of the talk that actually will help us to boost our immune system along the way as well. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and begin and just talk about an overview first about the general adaptation, stress, okay, on theory of stress, the general adaptation syndrome. So where we are currently, right, if you face something that happens acutely, something happens suddenly, anyone would be in the alarm phase, right? The experience is stressful, it's stressful for us, we don't know what to do, but after some time, we find a way to adapt to it. And this is where we reach the resistance phase, where we kind of get used to it. That's like when MCO went after the first month and then went to the second month, yeah, it's the new normal, right? Those are the words being thrown out. This was what was being expressed. And so we kind of got used to it. Now, we didn't like it, but we had to face it and we had to deal with it. However, when experts look at the spread of the COVID-19 as an example, and they realize that, when we read statements like it's here to stay, the new normal is here to stay, things will never go back to be the same. Those kinds of things can be very, very scary for all of us. And it actually reaches, and how should I put this, stresses out to, it wears us down over time. And we could reach the exhaustion phase after some time, and where we finally can't stand it any longer. And this is where I can see many, many people are currently in where we are in the world, right? So hypertension, depression, even suicide can actually increase from this phase because we don't know what's going to happen next. There's a lot of fear around us. And so being in this long-standing, long-term, stressful, unknowing situation can really put a toll on us. So what I would like to focus on is this. Since we are generally in the exhaustion stage right now, right? So what it says here, if a stressor continues beyond the body's capacity, the organism exhausts the resources and becomes susceptible to disease and even death. So basically, we are just tired out, we are burnt out. What else is going to happen next, right? So what I want to focus on today is a model of well-being, a model of psychological well-being that has been proven to actually increase positivity, right? If you partake in the activities, if you practice what I'm actually going to show you, can actually help to boost not only your positivity and reduce the negativity, but can also help you to boost your immune system. And that is something that I really want to emphasize here today. Because things are so unpredictable, we should expend our energy not so much on the worrying part of the aspect of things, but focusing on things that we can do for ourselves and definitely for our kids as well. So how do we cope in general, right? Coping, we talk about this word, how do we cope? So coping is a balancing act between biological, psychological, and social processes, which I will be covering. So what we want to do is something called adaptive coping, right? Where we can contribute to the resolution of the stress response by doing something that can help ourselves in the process and actually come out happier and even healthier in the way. But many of us currently may choose maladaptive coping strategies, which can actually cause further problems. So, some of us may turn to food, some of us may turn to drinking alcohol or smoking. These things, yes, it does calm us down for that moment. It makes us feel good for that little while, but it tears down our body in the long term, right? Because these are strategies that actually doesn't help us long term, but gives us that good high for the short term. So what we want to focus on again is, as I said, adaptive coping, as well as active coping, where we actively seek resolution to the stress and how do we solve it and how do we face it. So ultimately, the aim is to build on resilience, whereby we can actually have and build a resistant quality that permits every person, everyone in the world, to recover quickly and thrive in spite of the adversity that, such as what we are facing right now. So I'd like to introduce to you the Perma Plus model of well-being here. So the Perma takes its name from the components of the well-being model. P referring to positive emotions, E referring to engagement, R for relationships, M for meaning, A for accomplishment, and H for health. Okay, so this model is actually by a prominent psychologist, Dr. Martin Seligman, and basically his model has been updated for the PERMA with an added plus H here to take into account the health components. So I would like to explain each component here and how we can actually utilize this not only for ourselves but for our kids as well. So the first one, positive emotions. Well, positive emotions are generally, something very simple. I think all of us understands this. Joy, hope, happiness. Simple things like that, which we understand. And the cool thing is this: research has a lot of support behind it, where it has found that if you experience lots of joy and hope in your life, it can have a significant effect on our well-being. Now, researchers also suggest that experiencing these positive emotions. Now, when I think about positive emotions, I don't want you to just think of things like, just like really excited, really happy and all that, but more quiet positive sensations such as awe, being in awe, being grateful, just being calm and serene as an example. These are positive emotions nevertheless, but all these positive emotions tends to broaden one's outlook. Once we are calm or when we are happy, it opens our mindset. And that's very, very important because that's where we can reap the advantage of building creativity and resourcefulness, and then we can become more resilient and successful. The reason is this: if we tend to focus a lot on the negative emotions in our lives, our mindset tends to narrow inwards because we want to focus on just survival mode. And what happens when we focus on survival mode is we miss out on all the things that are happening around us. But when we experience positive emotions, our mindset, our outlook widens. And once it widens, we actually see, yes, life is tough. Yes, life is challenging, but there's also good things that are happening alongside the bad things as well. And that's what having a positive experience and then leading to a positive mindset and leading to a wider perspective of the world helps us to balance ourselves up much, much more. Okay, so the kids tip that I want to give for every one of these components is this: find ways to incorporate more positive experiences together with your kids. Now, some of you may be saying, wait a minute, my kids are the ones that are giving me the negative experience here. They're the ones that are not actually, being nice to me. They're demanding too much and all that kind of stuff. Well, rather than focusing on the negative first, which I will address later, how about try to build on more positive experiences? Now, it doesn't have to be buying them a gift necessarily or taking them out for ice cream or shopping as an example. But what I would like to show you is some evidence-based things that you can do together with them. So when they talk about the parents' activities here, what I would like the parents to start doing first and then including the kids along the way is something called kindness activities. So what research has shown again is that when we do a kind act to not only each other, but also to people around us, right? People that we may be not directly familiar with. Like let's say if you're in a church or in a temple, you meet some people around, you know that they are part of your community, but you have not actually talked to them directly, right? Find a way to help them out. So as an example for kindness activities, there's a website that I'm going to show you which comes up with a lot of kindness ideas. And every one of these have evidence-based research to provide support for it. All these things that we do for others, right, can actually boost our own happiness. And therefore, not only that the person receiving the help gains from the kind act, but the person giving and doing the kind act also gains in the process. And that's why when we express more kindness in the world, we double up the happiness around because we make the person on the receiving end be happy, and we actually boost our own well-being and positivity when we can know that we can do something kind for others as well. So I'm just taking some screenshots here and showing you that there are many, many things that you could do. Okay, for example, you could set goals for yourself, you could knit something, you could text someone good morning or good night, or create bookmarks to be given away. Write some beautiful messages, right? Write a thank you letter, for example. Have a kindness coloring contest. There's just so many things that you could do. How about this? We love coffee, don't we? How about we say a very kind word to ourselves rather than just, thank you. But it's like, thank you for the wonderful milk art. Thank you for the wonderful latte, as an example. They are working hard just like anybody else. Reach out, really thank them. And just those kind words can really set into motion a positivity that can benefit not only them, but also us. So find ways to incorporate these positive experiences and do it together with your kids, right? And you just look around. By looking around, you will be able to find kindness opportunities to do so. Now, another thing that I would like you to do in order to boost your positivity is something called a gratitude journal. This is something that first I'm going to tell you as parents what to do and then how to incorporate with your kids. A gratitude journal, what does it mean? It talks about writing the good things that have happened in your life in that day, right? So a very good time to do this is just before you fall asleep. You actually just recall throughout the day, what are the positive experiences that you've had? And you write it down in a journal somewhere. And you don't have to write it down every day, right? If you can write it at least minimum once a week for 2 weeks. So think about it. If you can write it down once a week for 2 weeks, or just twice in a 2-week period, you can actually boost your happiness and your positivity for a few months, 3 to 6 months, depending on the research. What I'm saying is this: it actually trains your mind to look for positive experiences while in this negative time. If we are very honest with ourselves, we can see that despite the negativity surrounding us, there's lots of good things that are happening. And this is something that we want to train our mind to do. Now, how can you do this with your kids? What I suggest is this. Sometimes when we have dinner, for example, well, firstly, if you can actually get everybody at the dinner table, as an example, that's actually a really good time to actually just ask around, like, hey, looking at the kids, for example, how was your day? And then they tell you their day, and usually they say, fine. Okay. hey, did anything good happen today in school? Now, I know it sounds a bit weird, but bear with me on this one. Did anybody say something nice to you? Did you experience something positive? Now, if they say no, then the conversation can move on to, how about you saying nice to somebody else? Is that possible? Is there someone in class that, may need a kind word or two? Can you reach out to them? Keep in mind here, we want to inculcate positivity through action and not just thoughts. So when we reach out to the people around, right, that makes a big difference because, again, let me tell you this, it not only boosts the positivity and happiness for the person on the receiving end, it also boosts our own happiness and positivity as well. And that's why it's very important to be kind to others, but also learn to look and be grateful for the things around. For example, I'm very grateful right now for you being with me right now, and being able to share. So similarly, look for the good things that are happening around. So your mind will focus and balance out, not just looking and focusing on the negativity, but also the positivity. Now, the next point, engagement. Now, what does engagement mean? Being engaged here, right? It's not like a typical I'm going to get married. It's not that kind of engagement, all right? But being engaged in activity, right? Being very focused on activity where time seems to fly by, for example, that's what I mean by being engaged. And when you're very engaged in activity, it's easy to find enjoyment in the task because you are just so into it. Now, it doesn't mean when you're doing it, you're actually smiling. But when you're so into it, this is something that's so important to you. These are utilizing your best talents, your best skills, and you're so into it. That actually can boost your well-being as well because you become very productive, be it at work or the classroom. Now, this is a challenge here. How do we get to be this engaged, as an example? Well, what research has shown is this, being able to use and develop one's strengths at work. So let me pause here for a moment. Let me say this. Most of the time, the way we communicate with one another, we tend to focus on what's wrong. Okay? It's very easy for us to spot what's wrong and point it out to the people around. But what's less common but much more productive is we can recognize strengths within each other, but also within ourselves. So, as an example, what are the strengths that you're good at? What are the strengths that you help you to do and enjoy what you're doing? Because if you do and incorporate the strengths that are natural to you in your everyday life, it can boost your confidence, your engagement, and energy at work. Now, if you ask this question to your child today, what are your child's natural strengths? What kind of an answer would you get? Being parents, again, in an Asian environment, I think many of us focus on, hey, you need to do this better. Hey, you can do that better. But what is natural to them? Okay, so what I mean is this. If the child is naturally curious, curiosity, I know we have the saying curiosity killed the cat, but I also see that curiosity can lead them to be explorers of the world, explorers of knowledge, right? They are curious about the world because they want to find out more. They're evidence-based, as an example. We should actually encourage curiosity. If left alone, that's where it can be dangerous. But if we can support them along the way, it can really make a big difference in their lives. So the tip here is this. Find out your child's natural strengths, what's natural to them, and then try to incorporate it daily and use those strengths every day. As an example, my daughter, okay, she's very creative, for example. So when she does homework, as an example, the teachers just want exact, this paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, just write exactly according to the scheme, for example. But whenever there's an opportunity in school where you have a creative writing or artistic story or painting, right? That's where she really, really shines because that's where she can actually tap on her natural talents and strength, which is creativity in this case, and apply it to school. So how can we utilize their strengths though? So let me show you how. For the parent, we start off with the parent as always before we get to the kids. The parent can actually discover your own character strengths by signing up for free at this website, and all, by the way, all these links I will be giving for the participants. You actually receive all these links to all these sites that I'm talking about. But for the VIA Character Strength Survey, there's actually an adult survey as well as a youth survey. So if you wanted your kids to answer as well, to find out their strengths, you could. And the cool thing about this is available not just in English, it's also available in Mandarin as well as, I think, yeah, Hindi. And that isn't for Malay though, but that's for Indonesian as an example. But there are multiple languages that you can take. What can you find out from this though? Well, what you have is something called the 24 character strengths that have been researched and found to be important throughout history. So things like appreciation of beauty and excellence, bravery, creativity, curiosity, fairness, there's 24 of these things. So let's explore what you can get once you do this. You can actually find out what the science says. So I just picked on actually curiosity. Okay, so from curiosity, what the science says is this. Research findings on the benefits of curiosity found that curiosity is one of the 5 strengths most reliably linked to satisfaction with life. Probably you didn't know that. Curiosity is also associated with happiness, health, longevity, and positive social relationships. That's why all these strengths is a different way of looking at our kids, but also a different way of looking at ourselves, right? How can we maximize the strengths that we naturally have to help us along the way? Along these lines as well, once you get your results, you can actually click on the links within the character strengths and the resources to further explore those strengths. Like what can you do to develop that strength even more, for example? Okay, and then they give you examples of strength in action, as well as how to apply this strength. So this is a very good website. It's free, right? You can sign up for, you can answer the questions. The English version is 96 questions. The other language versions are 120. But the point is, this will be one of the most, how should I put this, valuable time to spend, 10 to 15 minutes of your time to do it, to really answer these questions, to find out more about yourself, to discover your natural strengths. Now, these are my natural strengths. Okay, so there'll be, what you get is a report. There'll be 24 character strengths listed from the strongest all the way down to the least developed strengths. And what I want to focus on is this. When you get your report at the end of the questionnaire, you focus on the top 5. Your top 5 are your natural strengths. These are natural to you. These are things that you have been utilizing every day. The question now is, how can you use these strengths in your everyday life? For example, like for me, how can I use my strength of love more? Because I really value close relationships with others. I like to lead, for example, so I will volunteer for more leadership roles as an example. So what I want you to do is do this questionnaire for yourself. And if your child is between 10 to 17 years old, they can also answer the questions. But more importantly, sit down together, look at each other's strengths. This will provide a different way of looking at your child. Okay? And you may be surprised at the kind of natural strengths, the top 5 that they have. And this is something that you can use to start a conversation on, hey, how can we use more of these strengths? Oh, you have this certain strength of appreciation, beauty, and excellence. What would you like to do about that? If you're not sure, go back to the website and it can guide you. Okay, so this is something very, very exciting. Over 6 billion people in the world have taken this character strengths test. I recommend you do the same. Now, moving on to relationships. Now, relationships here are focusing on creating genuine connections with others, which can give you satisfaction and enrichment in your life. Now, I want to focus though on relationships. What I mean by relationships is healthy relationships, right? Just being in the relationship doesn't quite have the same kind of a positive effect compared to if you're in a healthy relationship. But being in a healthy relationship can lower your levels of stress, improve recovery from illness, give us a greater sense of purpose, and even help us to live a longer life. So choosing the right partner is key here. Okay, so a kid's tip here. The very important thing is, as parents, we have so limited time with our kids. We are working so hard, or we're trying to fulfill all the obligations from our end. Please, please, please spend a little bit of time with your kids every day. One of the best times to do so, if you're working the whole day, if you could just spend a few minutes to read them a bedtime story. Now, if you say you don't have books, you can go online. There are lots of online story books as an example. The point here is this. Just having that connection with them reinforces in them that you are there for them. Right? Don't bring your handphone. Don't bring your handphone along with you. Don't read a newspaper. Don't watch TV when you try to focusing on them. Focus on them. so that you keep that relationship strong. And even if it's not so good, maybe you could start, as I said, just a bedtime story. Because it's not about the quantity of time that you spend with your kids, it's about the quality of time that you spend with them. That's why when you do spend time with them, focus on them completely, even for a few minutes a day. It can really build on that relationship. And keep in mind, children grow up really fast. And the time that you have right now with them is the best time. Okay, I don't want you to have a regrets later saying, I wish I spent more time with my kids. The time you have right now is the time to do so. Now, for the parent side as well, what can we do? While we can spend time with our kids, I highly, highly recommend something called active constructive responding. Okay, now I'm just going to show you this really, really quick. If you wanted to, you could actually Google it, or you could actually put it on YouTube, active constructive responding. But let me just give you an overview of what it is. It is about how we communicate with one another. So I give you an example. Let's say our spouse comes back today, right, today, and says, darling, honey, hey, I got some good news to share. I got really some good news to share. Now, how is our typical response? For example, if we give a passive constructive response, okay, we can say, oh, okay, you got some good news. Yeah, okay, all right. And while we're responding, we're scrolling through our Facebook feed. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and talk. Go ahead and talk. Yeah, sure. Does that build relationships? It doesn't. We are supporting them in a very passive way. Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead. So it doesn't build on relationships. What about active destructive? Oh, you got good news. What is it about? Hey, I got a promotion. That's great. Hey, but promotion, does it mean that you have now even more work to do? You mean now that you're being promoted, there's more responsibility, you know? Then you're already not at home so much. How is it right now? Now you're going to spend even more time at work? So if we are active destructive in our way that we respond, we also tend to not build on the relationship. In fact, it's quite destructive, isn't it? If you're trying to share some good news, and the other person on the actually just responds in an almost destructive manner. Now, what about this? Passive destructive, right? The person ignores the event or even steals the conversation. So it could be, hey, honey, I've actually got some good news to share. Hey, guess what? Then the spouse responds, guess what? Before you tell me the news, let me tell you about my day. I had such a tough day today, you know. And you know, I had to do this, I had to do this, I had to do this, I had to do this. But the spouse just wanted to share the good news. But the other spouse just like, wait a minute. Yes, but let me tell you about myself first. Now, if we have someone who's giving us a more passive, destructive way, we are never really truly acknowledged. And it becomes a very tough thing for all of us if we are in such a relationship, because if they have active destructive, passive destructive, or even passive constructive, right? The two blue areas and the red area, it actually hurts the relationship. So the last option that we do have to actually build on relationships is this active constructive. So let's say again, the same scenario, the spouse comes back and says, honey, I got some good news to share. Great. And then the spouse responds, great, tell me all about it. And what the spouse does is puts down the phone, puts away the newspaper, switches off the TV, turns to the spouse and says, tell me, let me focus on you, tell me. And then as the person tells, like, tell me what it felt like, okay, when you heard the news. How were your colleagues, right? Imagine if you were there itself. How did it feel like? Basically, get fully immersed and involved with the conversation. Focus and look exactly and straight at your partner along the way. Because what you want to do is you want to actively and constructively respond to build on the relationship. Acknowledge the good things that have happened. Okay, now I know it sounds a little weird at first. It's not something we normally do, but research has shown this is the only way to really build on relationships. And this is something that we could do if our relationships aren't working out so well. Because keep in mind, we can do this not only with our spouse, but also with our kids. And it's something to think about. All right, so I would highly recommend, it's a great video online. You can actually go to YouTube and type in active constructive responding, and there'll be some videos to actually guide you along the way. Okay. Now, moving on, meaning. Now, what meaning means here is understanding that the things that you do makes a positive difference to others. Because this is when it has been found to increase one's well-being, motivation, commitment, and sense of satisfaction. After all, why are we here, right? What are we doing here? So the way to start thinking about meaning in your life is to ask yourself, is this exactly where you are right now, where you want to be? What can you do to make it better, to bring you more meaning in your life? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a high-paying job, you have to be a CEO of a company to have meaning. Meaning can be in the daily tasks that you do, right? Now, let me explain a bit more. For the kids tip, what does your kid want to be when they grow up? I mean, we ask them the questions all the time. Oh, you want to be a dancer? Oh, you want to be an astronaut? Or you want to, whatever it may be. It sounds, yeah, very cool, but deep down inside, as parents, many times, like, we may not fully support that though, or we think, no, I can't afford that, or we don't have the ability to do that. But what about how can we change our mindset and just ask the question to how can we provide them opportunities to get them there? Now, even if they don't quite get there, the important thing is how can we support them in this goal for themselves? Now, let me tell you a quick story. There was once a kid who was a bully in school, and parents complain and teachers complain, and obviously the kids complain as well. So one day the teacher just actually sat down with the kid and asked, like, look, what do you want to be? And the kid said, I want to be an astronaut. Now, this kid is bigger and stronger than the rest, and he tended to bully others. But the thing here was this: once the teacher understood what the kid's focus was, the teacher would emphasize the learning aspect and give examples like, look, astronauts need to know physics. They need to do well in mathematics. They need to learn to get along well with others because they are representatives of the human race. So when we turn things around to emphasize on what we can do to support our kids, for example, now it takes on a certain meaning. So yes, we may not be able to give them dancing lessons, but hey, there are lots of videos online, right? For example, I used to do this during the MCO. I used to go to like dance videos, and we would dance as a family, as an example, just to explore that option for them. So these are also things which actually help to boost positivity along the way. Now, for parents though, this is a very important exercise, the best possible self-exercise that you can do. Okay, so again, I'll give you all these links, and basically what it's asking you to do is here. Think about a positive future for yourself. If you didn't have the limitation of time, didn't have the limitation of energy, didn't have the limitation of money, what would you be doing? And what would you be doing for others in the future? What kind of a future would you like to paint and have for yourself? Because this is very similar to what we ask the kids. What would you like to be when you grow up? But now that we've grown up, where would we like our life to go without any limitations? If we were to just write this down, right, what it can help us to do is to focus on where we are presently and where we actually want to be. And we also need to help ourselves to find a way to get to where we would like to be to bring us more meaning. And in fact, what has happened is for me, as I'm getting older, I start to find that it's not so much about me, it's more about what I can do for others around. And that's what brings me true meaning. Okay, so I just want you to take some time for yourself just to write down where would you like to go and be, and what would you like to do if you didn't have the limitation of time, money, effort, and you just go ahead with that. Because you never know what kind of skills and talents that you actually naturally have within you that you could actually put into practice to make that reality a possibility. Okay? All right. So last one, accomplishments. Okay, so this is about having goals and ambition in life that can help us to achieve things, definitely. The key though is this, setting realistic goals and putting in the effort. So this is very, very two important points here. Whatever goals or things that we would like to achieve, we need to make it realistic, which means it's achievable, but definitely we have to work hard for it as well. So we need to put in the effort, because only when we have realistic goals and we put in the effort necessary to achieve those goals, can we have a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment? So this is what we call cultivating grit, or having a growth mindset. Now, this, you may have heard of this term, but this term is something that's a little complicated to explain. But so I'll try in this time, but I want you to explore further if you're interested in this. Having a growth mindset, I'm just going to go forward in for a while, is different from having a fixed mindset. Having a fixed mindset means this is who I am. I can't change anything. I am only this intelligent. I can only work this hard. This is who I am. Accept me or not. Right? I'm either good at this or not. I can't do any better. So if you recognize these words that you are saying or your child is saying, you or your child has a fixed mindset. Now, when you have a fixed mindset, what happens is people who have a fixed mindset tend to choose things which they can easily achieve and shy away from more challenging opportunities because the chances of failure is higher. But guess what? In order to achieve success in life, one has to actually also experience failure. We learn from our failures, right? When we learn from our failures, we learn now how not to do it the next time and what else to do for the following time. If you have that kind of a mindset, then you have a growth mindset, because then failure is an opportunity to grow. Failure is something that I've learned to actually improve the next time I do this. Okay, challenges help me to grow. My focus, my feedback from what I've gotten, even if it's negative, will help me to stick to it, to make things stay on track, and I will work at it and I will improve. If you say these things, then you have a growth mindset. Now, why is it important? It's important because in life, there's a lot of unpredictability. And if we teach our child to only focus on achieving based on something that is achievable, right, it's almost guaranteed, then our child won't actually reach very far, because we just grab what we call low-hanging fruits, right? Just get it so that I know I can get it. But the harder, more valuable fruits that are higher up in the tree, most people won't even try. So in a very challenging market environment nowadays, it is actually important to inculcate grit and inculcate a growth mindset for our kids, because by the time they graduate, jobs can be very challenging to have. It's something that we want to inculcate the growth so that they have greater opportunities and more willingness to try to achieve higher and willing to put in the effort to make that a reality as well. So for the kids tip, the next time your kid wants to give up on something that is worthwhile but challenging, work together with him or her to find ways to overcome it. Stick with it with them. Work on the strategies together so that they figure out, hey, actually, I can change a different strategy. I can do a different thing. I can make things happen for myself, rather than, oh, I don't know how to do, I give up. Okay? And we have to watch it for ourselves as well. So for the parents' activities, I've actually given a link. I'm going to give a link. You can Google this as well. 25 ways to develop a growth mindset. Again, this will take some time to actually incorporate within one's life, but it's very, very important, because challenges, failures, difficulties, these are all life lessons that can actually help us grow. In fact, I tell the students that I teach here, right, the saying, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it is when you're uncomfortable, that's when you know you're growing. But if we shy away from being uncomfortable, we only stay in our comfort zone, as an example, we don't really grow. We stay the same. And as humans, we need to progress, to keep growing, to keep expanding our knowledge, to keep facing new challenges, and especially with all sorts of challenges that are happening right now, which is unknowable, that's unpredictable as well. The way to deal with all the new changes is to have a growth mindset, to keep moving forward in life. Last component on health. So this is where we need to focus on staying healthy by eating well, moving regularly, and sleeping deeply, right? Having deep sleep, for example, to build a foundation for your well-being. So you need to ask yourself this: how is your diet? How is your exercise? How is your sleep? Are you having enough sleep? Do you have time for yourself? Or just like, nah, I'll do this later. The thing though is that the foundation we set for ourselves in terms of how we take care of ourselves will be what we have and what we bring forward as we age down our life. Okay, so the stronger foundation that you have for yourself more can be built on, more health can be built on it. But if you're not very healthy in the first place, then your focus and a lot of time and effort will be on managing the symptoms that you may be having right now. So health is something that's extremely important to focus on as well. So for example, if you could do this today, tonight, for example, when you go back home, right, you can actually have, for your kids and parent activities, a family discussion. Look at what you have for dinner. What are the choices that are you making? Are you making healthier choices? Now, it doesn't have to be tasteless and just vegetables everywhere. No, but can you improve on your diet? Can you incorporate more exercise into your family life, as an example, right? How can you also make sure you have more rest? How can you put away your devices earlier so that you can actually focus on rest? Because rest is when you actually recover. And talking about your immune system, when your diet is improved, when you exercise regularly, and when you rest sufficiently, your immune system gets boosted. And that is what we need as well in the present time, right? Because this is, again, very unpredictable. It is the new normal, and it's something that may not necessarily go away very soon. And I want you to emphasize and understand this point. Parents are the one that can set the tone for the kids to follow. Kids eat what the parents give them. Kids follow what the parents do. This is your opportunity to set a strong foundation of health for your kids, starting with yourself, involving them in order for them to improve and give them a long, healthy future along the way. So you could also now, you could say, you know what, I don't have access to a gym, that, things are closed. Well, you could Google body weight workouts and start a physical exercise program. Okay, there's lots of videos out there. You could also Google healthy Malaysian recipes as an example. You could, I don't know, become a YouTuber as an example, right? If you come up with your own recipes and becomes popular, as to what has happened as well, right? Start preparing healthier local meals, to have those flavors, but yet have healthier options instead. Now, you could also use a sleep tracker function on your fitness tracker device if you have one, and monitor your sleep quality as well. Because it's not about how much sleep, it's about the quality of sleep and how much deep sleep that you actually get. So you can monitor these things along the way. So one thing I would like to recommend to anyone as well, if you have not already started on mindfulness, there's a tremendous amount of research showing how beneficial mindfulness is. One is, now I'm taking it away from the religious aspect. I'm looking at it just purely from a scientific aspect. If you start on mindfulness, it can help induce the relaxation response. Okay? If you're honest with yourself on a day-to-day basis, if you wake up with palpitations, your heart's beating all the time, sweaty palms, you're anxious before returning to work or things as well like that, that can actually mean that you're not relaxed, you're not calm, and your fight or flight capacity within yourself is firing all the time. You're just waiting for the next danger zone, as an example. That just wears our immune system down. But if we can incorporate just 3 to 5 minutes, as an example, if you can Google, for example, getting started with mindfulness, and you scroll down, there are actually, how should I put this, guided meditations that you could use for beginners. 5 minutes, or even just 3 minutes. In 24 hours, if you could just incorporate 5 minutes of your time daily to focus on a breathing meditation that's guided, or even 3 minutes, for example, it can help, again, as I said, to balance out the stresses in your life, to activate the relaxation response, to actually help you to calm down and balance out the body chemistry that you have. Okay, so I highly recommend meditation as an example. Now, I'm going to end very soon, but I want to focus on this: the link between psychological well-being and our immune system. So this is a developing field because most of the time people focus on the physical aspects of the immune system. But there's more and more research coming up showing the link between how we think and how we feel about ourselves and what we do to increase our well-being, and it's linked to our immune system. So for example here, psychological well-being was proven to increase human body immune response. In contrast, psychological ill-being, okay, was associated with decreased immune responses. So basically, taking care of ourselves and boosting our psychological well-being can increase our human immune system response to help us combat diseases. In addition, when happiness is induced, the immune system actually functions better. There's also growing evidence, as I said before, that the relaxation response has positive effects, okay, for our immune system and our health. Now, managing stress, especially chronic or long-term stress, may help to fight germs. Now, this is very interesting when talking about relationships earlier. Social ties may indirectly strengthen immunity because friends, at least health-minded friends, not just friends, right, can actually encourage good health behaviors such as eating, sleeping, exercising well. So good friends, and this is by research, good friends also help to buffer the stress of negative events. So working on your relationships, working on your positive emotions can help to improve your immune system response. Now, let me express and explain just one more key point before, that I want you all to really understand. I don't want you to leave thinking that, oh, all I have to do is just make myself happy. Not necessarily, because there are actually two types of happiness here. And these two types of happiness have actually been studied, whereby it's influenced the gene expression in different ways. For example, people with a meaning-based or purpose-based outlook. So people with, when they do something in a positive sense, which brings them meaning, that's something meaningful for themselves and meaningful for others, they actually had favorable gene expression profiles, which means that their immune system increased. Now, this is a very interesting part. Whereas hedonic well-being, where you actually just enjoy life to the max, drive fast, eat the unhealthy food, the lovely, tasty food, drink alcohol, party all the time, for example. Yes, you're happy for that moment. But their immune profile was associated to those with individuals facing adversity or challenges. So just because you feel good, it depends on the type of feeling good and the type of happiness that makes a big difference here. It's not feeling happy at all costs. That can actually bring you down, as similar to someone facing adversity. But it's actually living life with a meaningful purpose, right? And having the accomplishments to help boost that meaning even more. That is how we boost our immune system as well. And lastly, looking after our mental health can definitely help boost our immune system. So with all this, just want to bring you back to the Perma Plus model of well-being. And this is something that I would like all of you to engage in on a daily basis. The P, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishments, and health components in everyday life. And this is how not only can you help yourself to increase your well-being, but you can also incorporate and build on the activities with your kids to also boost their well-being and boost your immune system as well as their immune system along the way. So that's what I wanted to share. And I look forward to your questions. So Serena, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. Wow, thank you so much, Alex, for such a insightful sharing. I learned so much. I was taking notes and so
You're
much
welcome.
nuggets of wisdom. So we have currently 2 questions, and
Okay.
I hope those who are tuned in, if you have more, please keep them coming. First question is, how do we get the partner or kids to move from the other stages to active constructive responding? I think this was under the
Fair enough.
relationship part. Yeah.
What I would recommend is this. Before we get others to do it, we have to start with ourselves. So if our normal course of conversation is someone talks to you and then you just reply back and then that's it, right? Just try this for today. Start with today.
Okay.
We would always be looking at screens, newspapers, TV, whatever. When someone converses with you, this is a simple habit to do. Put down your distraction. Focus on the person right now.
Yep.
Right? And then really focus on them to yes, I would like to hear more. Tell me more. Okay. Now, of course, I think your partner will be very surprised. Something wrong with you, is it? Or your kids is like, hey, daddy, something wrong, not right today. But the important thing is this, when you can just put all distractions aside and focus on the person that's talking to you and would like to communicate with you, what you are doing is now you're opening up your channel of communication to yes, I'm open. Let's talk. I'm here to listen. Now, let me give you another tip along the way though. This is a simple tip, but we do it all the time, I think wrongly. Meaning that we also are very quick to say something back. What I would like is for people to learn to listen. So I like to say this tip. We all have 2 ears, 1, 2, and 1 mouth.
Mm.
Can we learn to listen twice as much as speak? As parents, particularly, when we hear a little comment from our child, we want to just come in and say something and comment, and maybe be the, unfortunately, sometimes be the judge, jury, and executioner all in one go.
Mm.
But without even listening carefully to what actually was being experienced by the kid or even our partner. So hold on to your comments, hold on to it, listen carefully first with what is being communicated, and then respond.
Yep.
Sorry, I got another tip for you guys. Sorry.
Sure,
I just want to
sure.
share
We
as well.
welcome them. Yeah.
Okay, in terms of communication, what I like to express as well is when someone is talking to you, don't just listen to the words that are being said. Also, I like to use is listen with your eyes, which means that if you ask someone how are they feeling and they say, I'm fine. The words mean I'm fine. The body language says I'm not fine. So I want it to be consistent. I need to listen to the words, look with my eyes. Is it consistent? Is the message consistent? Plus, and this is something we need to work on, listen with our heart. Because if I really care for you and I want to reach out to really understand you, I will listen not only with my ear of the words being said, listen with my eyes of whether the consistency of behavior is there, but also with my heart because I want to reach out and support you in any way I can.
Yep.
That takes practice though. And in order to effect any change to people around, we have to start with ourselves. And that is tough. And it's going to seem weird, but let's just give it a try. Let's give it a try.
Yeah. Wow. Very, very encouraging. And you're right. If you suddenly try this for the first time, it might feel very awkward.
It would be.
Weird, but it's worth a try. I mean,
Yes.
at the
And
end of
then,
the day,
yeah, so, and we lead through example. And
Yes.
then, especially our kids will follow our example.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to
true.
start somewhere.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, we have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Second one is, earlier I think you talked about the dance training via video with your,
Yes.
with your family. So what to do when kids compare themselves to their peers who come from more privileged background? So for example, my friend gets to receive formal dance training while I only get to learn how to dance from YouTube.
Okay. The reality, okay, I'm going to put it this way.
Sure.
People who have an interest and a passion for something, it doesn't matter whether they get formalized training or not, they will find a way to shine. In fact, if you look at the rise of YouTube, right, or social influencers as an example, these are people who generally don't have formalized training. These are the people who just have that natural passion in them to actually explore their natural talents and strengths. Now, having said that, of course, having a proper coach, a proper training academy would definitely help. But doesn't mean someone who has the proper training would still reach the necessary level of success as someone who has that similar passion. The passion is how should I put it? The passion and the ability is the one that sets people apart. So I'll give an example here. I look at it as 2 things. One is interest, another is aptitude. A lot of people have the interest. I like to do this. I think I'll be good at it. But can you actually do it? It's a different matter. Okay? So we have to be realistic with our kids, especially when they compare themselves to others, right? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Singing competitions, right? I mean, there's so tons of videos of kids, young, 4 or 5 years old, singing brilliantly. Yes, they may have gone through a training program, but the reality is they already had the aptitude and the talent as well. So we have to be honest with our kids if they have the talent or not. But having said that, we should, no matter how bad they start off, I think we should try to encourage. So this is what I would do. And I've done this with my daughters. You're interested in this? Okay. And usually signing up for class is very, very expensive. You know, you got to get the uniform and everything. So what I do with my daughters is this. Let's try at a low level first. Okay. So I can bring you for the free trial for the class. Or we can do something online first. Let's try and see how you feel. If this is something that really you're passionate about, not just interested, but you have the aptitude for, I will support you. But if you just have the interest, but you really don't have the aptitude, yeah, let's try something else.
Right,
Okay? We have to be realistic because I don't want to be the kind of parent to also tell, you can do anything, you can be everyone. No, the reality is, we have to develop them. But having said that, we don't know the potential that they have. So give them at a low level an opportunity first. And many, many places, trust me, they have free classes. Maximize on those places. Give them
Right,
the
right.
opportunity, expose them. Because
Yeah,
then they can see for themselves, oh, it wasn't really what I thought it would be like. But thank you for
right.
the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So the important thing is explore. Now, having said that, children's interests do change over time, which is fine. I had my daughters have many uniforms, many suits of different things that they started and didn't finish. That's fine. I call it an investment because I was
Ah.
exploring with each child
Hmm.
what was the potential, which I don't expect them to be world-class beaters. No, no. But their potential, their capability, I want to give them the opportunity. But
Mm.
if for those who can't afford it, try the free trial classes.
Yep.
Trust me on this one. There are
Yeah.
many out there. Once they find themselves in that environment, now if it works, they have the aptitude, the teacher recognizes something, then please try to support them as much as possible. But don't, remember, have that growth mindset.
Mm.
Don't sit back and complain like, not fair, they have this, I don't have that. What can you do in your limited resources to enhance yourself along the way? That's having a growth mindset. That's
Yeah.
incorporating and saying, look, you may not have your journey may be a bit longer, but you can do it too. And there are tons of tutorials online as well. And in fact, there are touch upon these communities online, Facebook groups. You can film yourself, you can upload your videos, and people can comment and give you constructive feedback on what you can do better as well. That's something I've learned along the way. So even if as a parent, you're not a professional teacher, but there are a lot of teachers online, there are a lot of people online who would give constructive feedback. And you've got to find the right communities though, but they do this as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
recommend.
Thank you so much. That is such a helpful tip. Yeah, right. Low level investment to begin with to see whether the child has interest. Wonderful. And we have another question here, and just mindful of the time, we have about 5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
So this person says, I try very hard to achieve my daily goals in order to feel mentally and physically positive. But when there are a little too many goals, I tend to lose all positivity and I go into avoidance mode. So the question is, how do I overcome anxiety-induced procrastination using positivity?
This message could have been written by me, uh, meaning that in a modern age, we are measured by KPIs. We're measured by how productive we are. I can understand the perspective, but I can also see where it can overwhelm us.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is this. At the start of the day, I mean, we probably already have this to-do list, right? Or goals that we have to achieve. But at the start of the day, what we can do is mentally carve out our day in the sense of what do we really need to do? And what can we push back a little? I give you an example. I like to use this saying, under promise, over deliver. Okay? Under promise, over deliver. So what it means is, if you're given an assignment from your boss, as an example, and you know it takes you 1 week to complete, tell your boss you need 2 weeks. Okay? If yes, boss, I do this. Now, the important thing is this. The reason is this. But give yourself buffer. Life happens. It doesn't have to do anything with work. Family happens, right? Things happens around, and all these things will take up our time. But if we just buy ourselves a little bit of buffer, we will still accomplish that task, but in a slightly different timeline. Now, I'm not saying here that makes us be delayed. We make sure if we say 2 weeks, we finish it. Now, this is where we over deliver. We finish it before 2 weeks. Okay, so we know we can finish it in 1 week. We ask for 2 weeks. We finish it in 1.5 weeks. Okay, so that we actually show the people around I've actually over delivered. I'm actually beating the KPI. But the reality is, I understand many times our bosses say I need it tomorrow, and then we have to shift our priorities. Having said that, I still say this: the time that you spend with your partner, your spouse, your kids, still allocate that time, even if it's a little bit, because when you are very, very stressed, you start to realize this is who I'm doing it for. I'm not just doing this for a paycheck. I'm doing this, even though I'm not so really happy about it, I'm doing this and I'm doing this for my spouse. I'm doing this for my kids. And that is the image that will help you to keep going. But don't do this all the time. Don't keep pushing your luck and fulfilling all the goals exactly as what is demanded of you. Learn to also say no and learn to negotiate certain aspects of things when you can negotiate, to buy and buffer yourself a bit of time. Because as I said, it's life happens where if things are out of your control and it happens to you, and you just want to be able to have that breathing space to refocus back again. So under promise, over deliver, to just give yourself that time. I'm not saying you become a less of a effective employee, but give yourself that time, because you don't want it to be, now I have to work 24/7. I cut out my relationship with my spouse. I forget about my kids, because those are the things, once they are gone, they cannot come back. And it's not worth any job out there. Okay, so it's something that you want to keep your family grounded, your relationships. Tons of research show the number one predictor of well-being and wellness and happiness and joy and meaning, family. Good social relationships, not a job. A job can bring you meaning, but if it gives you time for your family. So this is something that you may want to review, reconsider for yourself, if this is the job that you would like to do, if it's taking away too much of your time, that you're not even learning to like yourself or love yourself along the way. Now, obviously, self-compassion is very, very important, that we could help along the way. But still, we need to be realistic. We need to be honest with ourselves. Is this something that maybe we need to have a conversation with our boss, conversation with our family members as well, that there may be times you need to focus on your job, but you have not lost sight of who they are, of them, and spending time with them. Right? So that's what I would highly recommend. So also, as I said again, over and over again, under promise, over deliver, if you can.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, we have two more questions. I guess we will make a little bit of time, but
Sure,
we'll have to wrap it up soon.
Sure.
Okay, so the first question is, the Perma model encourages us to build positive energy to begin with, but sometimes things are overwhelming. So will a healthy dose of crying be good in releasing the stress?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Crying is a cathartic way to release the frustrations, and when things are overwhelming, we just want to get it out there. And once we do that, we are more calm. That's why I recommend crying. I really do. And guys, please do it too. I'm not saying just do it for purpose, but when you feel overwhelmed, it's okay to stop, because what you're actually doing, you're stopping for a moment, you're focusing on yourself, you're being honest and genuine with yourself. Like, I can't deal with this. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. Once you acknowledge that, that's where you can start improving. By not acknowledging and saying, I'm fine, I'm okay, that gets us into trouble. But by recognizing that we're overwhelmed, and then we break down, we cry, it's an acknowledgement that something's not right. But also now that we're calmer and we've let a lot of the emotions go, what can we do? Okay. So for example, positive emotions. Well, you can start in having more positive emotions. Now, this actually works for people who are actually quite depressed. Do something for someone else. I know it doesn't sound right, but if you could reach out to someone, quote unquote, worse off than you can actually start to see that actually you have worth, that you have something that others may not have, that you are actually capable of helping someone else, even though you are suffering yourself. That's why volunteering, reaching out to the people in your community, just saying a kind act, doing something for others will automatically help boost your positivity. Okay, but this is where meaning is important here. It's not just I want to have that ice cream. The problem with having ice cream is that it makes me feel good, then I feel bad. So how do I feel good? I take more ice cream. So that's a vicious cycle along the way. But I'm talking about more important types of positive emotions, such as meaning, such as gratitude. For example, if you don't want to reach out to others, then write a gratitude journal. What good things have happened in my life today? And you can start with something simple as, hey, I got up in the morning. I'm actually still here. My heart's fine. My health is okay. I'm pretty grateful. For something simple that we take for granted, we need to recognize the things that are going well in our lives. We need to really focus on the simple things in life and not think, when I get my BMW or when I become CEO, that's when I'll be happy. No, those are things. As if you notice, if all the whole Perma model, not one aspect covers things. It's about meaning, relationships, and reaching out to others as well.
The bigger picture, huh?
The bigger picture. Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll have to wrap it up after this last question.
Okay.
Thank you so much to the audience for really just sharing some of your questions. They're really, really helpful. So this last one is just a bit of sharing. Conversation with my parents, most of the time, are passive destructive, and sometimes it's frustrating because I find myself having to repeat myself. They ask because they just don't have the time to pay attention. So I'll guess if this is a young person, and the question is, how can I address this with them without hurting them? Because I do understand sometimes my parents are just swamped with work and all.
Thank you for that question. This is what I would recommend. Call for a family meeting. Make an appointment with your parents. Okay? If they can make an appointment with their superiors and their subordinates, you do the same. You talk the language that they are used to of work. Mom, I would like to set an appointment with you. When are you available? Then, of course, they'll look at you one kind, but the thing is this. You're also telling them, look, I'm trying to reach out here. I'm truly trying to communicate here. And if I just try to talk to you, now you may be busy, but I need to know when you are available so that you can really focus on me, so that I can also make time. And you do the same with your dad as well. I'm serious about this. Make an appointment to see your parents. Now, what I mean by seeing your parents, I'm not just saying seeing your parents, but I'm saying really having a meeting with your parents. Okay? Because this is the language that they use. This is how they think. Many times, unfortunately for parents, they think that children should be seen and not heard. Or they seem fine. They're doing fine. They're okay. The reality is they may be uncomfortable themselves to acknowledge that they may not know how to communicate with you. So set up a business meeting, set up an appointment to communicate and come up with an agenda. And I'm serious about this. I know it sounds so business-like, but I'm serious. Don't come in blabbering. No, this is the agenda for the meeting. I need to talk to you about A, B, D, D. These are the solutions I would like to propose. Because this is something I think that could be very, very helpful for them to recognize that this is something serious, and then they will actually more than likely also approve of things. Now, I know another way of obviously also is to give them active constructive responding, to actually acknowledge when they have good things to say and really focus on them. And then they start to realize, hey, when was the last time I did this for you instead? Right? So actually try to practice that. But I'm serious about this. Set an appointment to see your parents. Come up with an agenda, what you like to discuss. Stay on point so that they can actually understand that, oh, wow, maybe we have been neglecting you. Maybe we have not given you the time. But if this is what you have to do, I think it's serious enough to actually meet you. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Yeah. Sorry, Serena, I can't quite hear you. I think your mic is off. Okay. Yeah, Serena, I can't hear you.
Hi, sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So thank you so much for a very in-depth answer, and I appreciate all the questions that were raised by the audience. And actually, Mr. Alex's response was very timely because it's actually, his talk is a part one of our two-part talk series, and it ties in very nicely with my session this coming Friday at 2 o'clock, where I will probably elaborate more on how we can build resilience as a family, and using some of the tips that he's already raised up, we will go into specific steps on what you can do, whether you're a young person or an older adult, on how to build resilience in your family. So thank you very much for joining us this Tuesday afternoon, and we hope you've had a very enlightening session, and no time like the present to start using some of these tips of the Perma model. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon and the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.